All right. Hello, Onslaught fam. Welcome back to another faction-focused video, this time about Tyranids, the unobjectively best army in the game. No, I will not be unbiased. Joining us, we have Kate.
Hello.
And, Kirk. He's still currently in some subterranean tunnels, but we got him. It's fine.
Yeah, he's around here somewhere.
So welcome, guys. First of all, thank you for coming on and talking with me, because I can talk plenty about this army, but people get bored of that. So it's good to have other people's takes. So we'll start with Kate. Ladies first. Tell us about your experience with 40K. History of the army, all that fun stuff.
Well, thank you. Well, it's great to see this hive mind come together tonight. Thank you for having me. I started playing Bugs back in 8th edition. That's when I started Warhammer in general. I used to play games like Red Alert when I was a kid on the computer, but never actually dipped into 40K until right before COVID hit. So it's a good time to start a new hobby. And I'm married to Todd Morrison, for those who don't know, who plays Necrons. So him and I started building armies together, and it was just something really fun to do in a social aspect and also like a mental aspect, kind of putting our armies on the table and having hobby days with friends, painting and building models, building terrain sets, and Tyranids. I guess since I was young, I've always liked dragons, and the Tyranids just kind of reminded me of the dragon-like features, and I think they're the coolest looking army, and that's why I picked them. That's pretty much the long and the short of my bug journey. Still playing now. Very excited for the new Red Terror, but we could get into that a little later.
Oh, we will. All right, Mr. Kirk, how about you? What led you to the hive mind?
Well, hi everybody, my name is Kirk, and likewise, thank you for inviting me for this little powwow. It's great to be here. I first started playing Warhammer right when 7th edition came out, like right after then, and Tyranids were my first army. I was pretty much gravitated toward them because since I was a wee lad, I've always liked monster movies, and Godzilla was like one of my childhood heroes. So that really spoke to me. All kinds of like movies like Aliens and stuff. So this army was like right up my alley. And I have had a few other armies throughout the years that I still have, but I primarily played Tyranids, and the reason why, I just think they're fun. It's always been a super adaptable army. They've always kind of been like the jack of all trade, masters of none type category, where they just have so many options that you can do pretty much anything you want with them as far as list building goes. You can have tons of horde units on the table, or just single big tough monsters, or a combination. There's just a lot you can do with them, and their model range is pretty extensive compared to most other factions, so they're great.
Yep. And as for myself, I also started right at the beginning of 8th as well. I started pretty much right after the codexes came out, specifically the Tyranid codex, which was just a happy accident. And very similar to both of you, I'm a big fan of things like the Flood from Halo, the Zerg from StarCraft, big into Alien and Predator. So, I saw these things, and I'm just like, this is everything I ever wanted. And similar, I've loved Godzilla all throughout the years, no matter what studio was producing the movies. So I saw, big, sci-fi, Darwinism, species, monsters, and I'm like, I want to do that. I don't care about big guys with bigger guns. I want the monsters. And yeah, I do agree they are very much jack of all trades, which is a great way to start the game of 40K, because they allow you to practice a lot of movement, shooting, melee. That back when 8th edition, when it existed, there was a psychic phase they participated heavily in. Hello, Kat.
Hello.
So yeah, they were just a fun army, and I don't know about you two, but I consider myself super lucky starting with Tyranids, because they also have the hidden bonus of being one of, probably other than Necrons, the easiest armies to paint. Because it's
all just 500 of them?
Well, on a model by model. Look, if you're doing Necrons, there's no easy way around it.
I think I can kind of agree with that, but they're easy to paint, but they're also fun to paint too. I enjoy painting my stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility because they're so organic, so you don't need to have fine line work unless you want it, of course. But you know, you can really blend colors and do crazy things with the carapace. So
yeah.
And I would also say that not only are they fun to play, I've had a lot of people tell me they're fun to play against, and I liked hearing that, especially in the older editions. I would hear that a lot.
Absolutely. No, I play, you know, we'll get into this a bit later, but the way I play can be very, you know, gotchy if my opponents don't know what I'm doing. But luckily, I'm just a little T4 guys with 1 or 2 wounds, so it's not too hard to get rid of me. And that makes people feel good generally. They activate, stuff dies. You know, that's the game we're playing. And it stays dead.
Sense of security sometimes.
Well, that's where the you know, anti-gotcha, hey, let me remind you, hack comes in. But going into play styles, you know, we're nearing the end of 10th edition, so we have a good retrospective. You know, they're the main army I played in 10th edition. I dabbled a little bit with Slanesh, but mostly Tyranids. So, you know, I kind of want to go with you guys through from the index to like now, kind of, you know, how the army's been, you know, how you felt playing it. And once again, we'll start, you know, with Miss Kate.
All right. Well, when 10th first started, I really enjoyed the Vanguard Invader detachment. I really liked all the lone op options. I liked that everyone could fall back and charge or advance and charge if they had the Vanguard Invader keyword. Kind of goes into the flexibility of how you can make different NIDS lists. Like you could choose to do you could do a mostly melee army with a lot of bodies and horde and Gene Stealers. I feel like they were a common unit that I took when I played Vanguard Invader. They, like you said, little T4 bodies, and the 2 wound glow up was very nice compared to their previous 1 wound. So yeah, or you could choose leaning into more of a heavily ranged army where, you know, you have your lone ops in the back and you have your range bugs downwind like the Exocrine, or one of my favorites is using the Tyrannifex with its acid spray. I know it's an expensive model, but I just love that 2 flat damage torrent weapon that's 18 inches. So I'm very excited for 11th edition, although 10th edition was great. And I think that's all I really have to say right now in regards to 10th. I feel like I'm more of a responsive commenter than, you know, really diving deep into all my lists.
That's perfect. Kirk, how's your adventure been this edition?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we only have like an index for like a couple of months? Because the Tyranid Codex and the Space Marine Codex were the first 2 to pop out, right?
It was about a month. It was released in June. We got our codex in July, so we had like 4, maybe 5 weeks of index, and then we got.
Yeah, it just like basically jumped right into the. I think we had like 6 detachments, and yeah, I think Vanguard was also one of the ones that I liked in the beginning, and I think that's one of the ones that like hasn't changed very much over the edition, has it?
No,
it's pretty much the same. Whereas like I know Assimilation Swarm was like really bad when it came out, and they did some changes to that, and I think Crusher Stampede had some changes to it too, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. I can't quite remember what they were. And Invasion Fleets kind of stayed the same, and Synaptic Nexus kind of has stayed the same too, but I don't think anybody plays that whenever. But I've tried to dabble in a couple of them, but I'd have to say the one that I've played the most recently would probably be Crusher Stampede. That's probably my favorite right now. It's just that big tough monsters. They're a bit of a stat check. They're hard to wound. They're tough to kill.
What are some of your staples for a Crusher detachment?
Ooh, I've really been liking the Psychophages ever since they changed them. Was it like 6 months ago? There was an update, and they like kind of revamped them so that they move like 12 inches now, as opposed to the 8 that they used to do, and their datasheet abilities got changed. So I like them. They're deceptively durable. They finally gave us a unit with the smoke keyword, so we can use one of those fancy stratagems that everybody gets to have that we never get.
This must be a type.
For those of you who don't know, Tyranids as an entire faction did not have access to any smoke keywords. We still don't have any grenade keywords, and we still can't tank shock.
Yes.
Outside of a pseudo tank shock in Crusher Stampede.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I like it. There's a stratagem that's kind of like a hybrid of the grenade and tank shock stratagem, which I find to be pretty effective, and I like it. So now it makes me loathe not having tank shock even more throughout most of the edition. But it is what it is.
What it feels like. Are there any enhancements that you take?
That detachment's enhancements are not that great. I think I've only ever picked one that gives you like extra 3 OC on. Like, I think the only thing that can have it really is the Hive Tyrant. 'Cause I think it only goes on a monster, and only the monster characters or Hive Tyrants that can have enhancements. So,
well, hold on, you could take the other one.
Oh, Turvagon, that's true. Turvagons can have it, but that's not what you want.
You're not going to do that.
No.
Yeah, no, we've had a couple of changes to many of our detachments. Unending Swarm, it got hit. It wasn't a specific change, but actually, ironically, our two detachments that stopped being played were Synaptic Nexus and Unending Swarm were because of game-wide changes to Armor of Contempt and similar stratagems. So you could no longer have a Norn or, your Carnifexes. I think Carnifexes aren't Synapse. But any 2-up monsters that are Synapse, you could no longer AOC them for a whole phase, which is one activation.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of went out the window. And then the stratagem to bring back a unit that's destroyed, game-wide, we're all limited to once per battle. So you could no longer infinitely respawn your Gaunts playing the Necron game. You could respawn one unit of Gaunts, and then you were done.
Mm-hmm.
Which Gaunts die way easier than Necron, so it was just a losing battle anyway.
Yep. I'm sure most people are not aware that Tyranids do have an Armor of Contempt strat, and it's just no one ever uses the detachment that it's in.
We also have a grenade strat, funnily enough. That's harder to use. So...
you know a strat that I feel like has untouched potential? It's in the warrior bioform Onslaught, where you can add +2 to your ranged attack strength.
Yes,
I
I've
feel
used
like
that
it's
before.
a little tasty on the Exocrats.
Yes, that and the Tyranifexes, you can make their torrent weapon strength 8.
My acid spray.
Yes, that's a really good combo.
Absolutely. I actually really like the Tyranid warrior bioform detachment. I wish this new character wasn't 85 points. What is that? But
I wish it wasn't 85 points, and I wish that they added it to the detachment, because as far as I'm aware of, that has not happened yet.
Yeah. It does not have either the warrior keyword, either melee or range bioform, or the winged Tyranid prime keyword, which is what the detachment checks for. This is a Tyranid prime with lash whip and has that keyword. So it does not actually get the 5-up invuln or any of the enhancements, which is hilarious, honestly. As for me, I started with Invasion Fleet, and I played it up until the Codex came out because that's all what I had to do. And then I jumped to Vanguard because I'm like, I used to play Kraken. Kraken is my favorite. I love Gene Stealers and Lone Ops, the Snakes. The Snakes weren't Vanguard Invader when the Codex came out. I don't know why, but they weren't. But I gotta tell you, it wasn't until the buff to Synapse, where you got +1 strength and melee for being in Synapse, that Vanguard really came online. Strength 5 Gene Stealers, Strength 8 Neurolictors, or even Lictors, get Synapse on them. Absolutely massive. And then we've had other buffs, like I said, all the Snakes got added, Trigon, Moloch, and then the Ravener and the Hybrid Raveners got added in. And then, the Broodlord and Neurolictor got the Synapse keywords, which they didn't have to begin with. So it just kind of, nothing about the detachment changed. It just got more options and more use of the options the army already had. So I played, I'd say, up until the end of 2021 Invasion. And then as soon as that December data slate dropped where that changed, I've been on Vanguard for like 2 years straight. Love me Vanguard. Though I will say I have been tempted by the Siren's Call of Subterranean Assault.
Well, I'm sure we've all at least tried that out a few times, haven't we?
I definitely. Oh, sorry.
No, you're,
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say when that detachment came out, I definitely went and bought some more snake models for sure.
I think it's a solid attachment. I like it.
I take a Herodin in it. I'm a rebel. I take like 2 or 3 snakes, and then I take the dragon, because much like Kate, I too like dragons. And just the thought of, 2d6 plus 12, reroll ones, ignore cover, sustain lethal hits, it's just funny to me. So
It's fantastic.
See,
Yeah.
like that detachment rule is like so good. Like you could make a case for just taking it for the reroll ones and like not bring any snakes or anything and just roll with the reroll ones to hit.
Yep. No, you really could. My invasion fleet list actually used to be the complete opposite of what I play now, which is melee heavy. It took 3 Maleceptors, 3 Exocrines, a melee and shooting Hive Tyrant on foot, like 30 Gargoyles or 20 Gargoyles and Hormigons, and the points changed, and then Biovore, and we'll get to the Biovore. I have a whole special thing about him. Don't you worry, audience. And then a number of lone ops to just play the mission. And a Neuro Tyrant. I personally like the Neuro Tyrant. I think our army rule Shadows is way too inconsistent for a majority leadership 6 game. Also, it's just funny to have a 5 strength 5 2 damage flamer just chilling for like turns 4 or 5. But I played very shooting heavy, and I love the Maleceptor with a 5-up Final Pain is so durable. Not to fire dragons or to like a Lancer charging it, but to most things it's pretty good. That's my not so subtle segue for you guys. Not mentioning the Biovore. We will get to that. Kate, what are some of your favorite models that you've either used in the past or have kind of drifted to using recently?
Ooh, if we want to start in the past, I don't want to rip open old wounds, but Hive Guard back in the day with their indirect fire, that's something that I dove into. I never took 18 for the record, but definitely 12 with the magic boxes. Had our fun.
You didn't want everybody to hate you?
No, I didn't. And I didn't have the model count at the time.
For some quick context before you go on, Hive Guard used to wound knights on 4s back when the maximum toughness was 8, not 12 or 13 or whatever. So they would have indirect shots basically at like strength 11 or 12 in current terms.
With no penalty. Indirect with no penalty.
Yeah, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, and sustained hits, and shoot twice if you got psychic power off. It was real nasty.
Mm-hmm. They've definitely been nerfed since then, of course. The anti-vehicle is cute, but I probably ran it like twice in casual games at home, but I never take them in my normal lists. Current day, and something that's always been a staple in my lists, are the Zoanthropes. Need to have a 6-pack of Zoes, and I know you talked about the Neuro Tyrant. I typically run them together. That way they get the big guns never tire when they're in combat, because I get the monster keyword from the Neuro Tyrant. But although it does make movement kind of difficult around terrain pieces and stuff. But also it gives them the +1 to hit, so they're hitting on 2s all the time. Target your enemy with an Exocrine first, that way you could reroll 1s. I just feel like it's a really nice cascade of events. You said not to mention the Biovore, so we'll skim over him.
How can we not talk about the best unit in the entire game?
I mean, I know.
Because
we can talk about how the spores used to do actions, but I don't want to.
It's going to have its own little segment, Kirk. That's why, because you just can't. I think it's the only model I've put in every single Tyranid list, all edition, regardless of meta or whatever.
Also, just something about me, I've always liked the spore theme and like the spore mechanics of the game. I used to run a spore assist, and he was pretty awesome because historically you used to be able to just shoot at things whenever they moved by you. Now they could fire Overwatch for free, even if something else already Overwatched. They're not fantastic, so I don't really run them anymore, but that's kind of one of my personal favorites, just because it's a nuisance. And I think a Gene Stealer brick and a Broodlord leading them, they're definitely a staple for me as well. Especially since they've become 2 wounds, like you mentioned, Synapse giving them the +1 strength, and the Dev wounds from the Broodlord could just really be decimating if you put them into the right target and keep them alive long enough to sneak up on someone.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're 25 wounds total with Broodlords -1 to hit and melee on the crackback and a 5-up invuln makes it, in my experience, unless like it's dedicated like shooting and charging, I usually make it out with a Broodlord and a Gene Stealer or two from like being in the middle of my opponent's army because they just can't get through it. Like, it feels like it, but not everything falls back in acts. So like you tag a bunch of stuff, they kill 3 or 4 guys, and they either have to not activate with like 2 or 3 units or stay in combat, let you hit them first, which they still don't want to do. So it's they're deceptively in. God, I wish they were viable in Invasion Fleet. Giving them a 5-up Final Pain and sustained hits would be just.
I mean, I've taken them in Invasion Fleet, and they've definitely. It feels good to have sustained on them and give them the 5-up Feel No Pain. It makes me a little bit more aggressive with them, having that safety net, which isn't always a smart move, but not always the smartest player. Sometimes I just follow my heart, what I feel like doing in the moment. And yeah, that's that.
What about you, Kirk? What are some of your standout ones?
Well, if I'm going back in time to 7th edition, I really liked the Tyranid Warriors back then, because back then the rules of the game were like definitely different, and the way that the fight phase worked is that it wasn't this I go, you go like setup. It was more of like whoever had the best initiative got to strike first. And the Tyranid Warriors had lash whips, which with their bone swords, and that I forget if they gave you +2 initiative or -2 initiative on the opponent. But anyway, I would often find that they would strike first, against the enemy. So I liked using those in the past, and of course the Hive Guard were just like brutal back in the day. But nowadays, I'm more focused on like the monster type units than the infantry stuff. So like I mentioned the Psychophage, I'm really enjoying using them. The Tyrannifexes are awesome. The Exocrines are awesome. And then I like the Hive Tyrant is also like a staple, I think, in any army. Either a Hive Tyrant or a Swarm Lord. And then if you can fit a Neuro Tyrant in there, they're awesome as well. They have like so much utility between, like you mentioned, their Flamer. They can fling out these 2 little tokens to units to put them in Synapse. So you don't have to have your Synapse creatures necessarily in the front lines, in the thick of everything. You can have them kind of chill back and fling Neuroloids out from the Neuro Tyrant and get those buffs, be it the extra dice when you roll Battle Shocks or the extra strength in melee. It was really good. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of options with the army.
Oh, for sure.
I have one additional throwback for you guys. Sorry to interrupt.
There you go.
Sitting next to me the whole time to make his debut.
Oh, yeah. I got the shooty one.
The side Pyrodual.
I only have the Barbed Pyrodual as well. I was going to get more, and then they got Legend, so I'm sad. But I do love the High... Man. Oh, running those in 8th was so much fun.
Yeah, I've been very tempted to run my Hierophant, but the thing is just so ridiculously big. The way the maps are nowadays, it would not be good. And then in just one more quick one, and this is something that no one ever uses today, but the Mucilid spores that come with the Sporocyst and the Tyrannocyte drop pods, those used to be really good against like aircraft and flying units.
Even in 8th, they were good against melee units because you just put them like 4 inches in front of your army until the Bloody Angels play their charge. Like, go ahead, because I don't know if I think they still do. Instead of doing 0, 1, or D3 on a 1, 2 to 5, or a 6, they do 1, D3, or flat 3. So, and you used to be able to take them into units of 6. Now you can take them in units of 3. which, fun fact, I bet a lot of people didn't know, you can just take spore mines. Like, you could just buy either version, the Muculid or the regular ones. You don't.
Yep. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
they're
you
a
don't
little-
spend points on that.
I would totally do that if they were like less points.
I will
There you-
say, the Muculid Spore, I just pulled it up. It's D3 on a 2 to 5, but on if you roll 6, it's D6 mortal wounds.
Oh,
It's a little
yeah.
swingy, but flat 3. I don't know. Do you guys think flat 3 would be nicer than D6?
Absolutely.
I think so. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The reliability is important.
I've seen my dice roll. I know how this works. As for me, I love Old One Eye. Both just it's one of the few. I love all of our named characters: Swarmlord, Deathleaper, and Old One Eye. Some of my favorite models. I used to run them in every list. In Invasion Fleet, all three of them made the cut on their own merit and because they're cool. Eventually, Swarmlord got cut because Hive Tyrant was just better, especially when it got the assault buff. I was like, okay, no, you're going in, or the lethal hits buff. I mean, and now I start running Flying Hive Tyrant. I love the fly. He used to be a terror in older editions, especially 9th. Oh my god, that thing was busted. Now he's great. He's still good. He's like anti-elite infantry, kind of anti-tank if you get the +1 to wound off, but meh. Old One Eye is awesome on his own. 2 up, no invuln, but a 5 up Fennel Pain. Usually stick an auto heal each command phase for D3, not just yours. Especially an attachment that heals on top of it. So either Assimilation Swarm or Subterranean Assault, he can last a long time. And then Gene Stealers as well. I love Gene Stealers. They're fun. They're fast. I like fast punch people in the face. They just like, oh, you don't have any guns or you have a few guns, so your threat range, I'm safe at like 30 inches. And I'm like, you would think that. You would, but you're not.
Do you like running Carnifexes with the Old One Eye or just him solo?
I like just him. The Carnifexes are too expensive for not enough payback. It's just...
I think the Carnifexes with Old One Eye are decent if you go like the shooty route with them. If you give both of them double Death Spitters, and you have like 24 shots and you reroll everything with Old One Eye. And I think they're like strength 7, AP 2, 1 damage each.
Yeah, and you can do some cool stuff. Like in Invasion Fleet, they can get lethal or lethal sustained if they're next to in infantry, like next to a Hive Tyrant, or the Warrior detachment. You can make them strength 9, which can get some pretty cool breakpoints. And then Subterranean as well. You can give them ignore cover, sustained hits, possibly lethals with the Hive Tyrant coming out the same way they did. So the shooting ones are pretty good. I just like I said, I prefer to punch people, and I think Old One Eye for like 150, 140, whatever he is now, just going out doing his thing is super nice. And he's one of our few semi-reliable anti-tanks. So I kind of just like him for that. And then the Trigon's my favorite model in all of 40K. I love Big Snake Boy. I love that they brought Trigon Prime back. God, I wish our army could use that detachment to its full effectiveness. It makes me so sad. We got a whole snake detachment, and like a Venom and 5 Witches just shut the entire thing off, and I'm so sad. Other than that, New Red Terror looks sick. That I don't even care about the rules. I'm getting it.
No, I've been waiting for that. I have the old janky model.
Oh, this one?
Yes.
Oh.
There he is in all his glory.
We're gonna
Oh,
censor
he's
that.
beautiful. So fine, Casty. My video looks really grainy on my end. I hope you guys are getting the full effect of his glory. All right, and there's Cat trying to eat.
Just getting more screen time than it. He's just jealous.
I really hope they keep his old rule where he can just like swallow something whole, and they don't get a save or anything. The model is just slain and removed from play. I don't think anything else had a rule like that.
No, you roll you roll a d6, and if it's higher than the wounds of whatever you targeted, it just gets destroyed. You just eat it.
Yeah, they get no save or nothing.
There was what was it called? The old it got legends, and we got the Norns. Not a Herodul, the other one.
The Dimacharion, yeah.
Yeah, it had a similar rule to its Thorax, where if it killed something with its Thorax weapon, it got a 5 up invuln for the rest of the game. which it's an insane rule. God bless old Warhammer.
I almost brought her out too as part of my little model set over here, but just the Hierodule and the Red Terror.
Yeah, I used to run 2 of them. They were great.
I want the Hierodules and the Damacarons to come back. Like, we need more big monsters, not less. The Norns are cool, but like the Norns are not those.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, so the elephant in the room, the Biovore. What do we think about that bad boy? Just a 50-point little guy that sits in the back and does nothing all game.
He does so much. What do you mean? He's the hardest working bug out there, and he barely moves.
I don't know about you guys. I attribute like a solid quarter of my points, like 20-25 points every game, on missions where your home counts. When your home doesn't count, it only gets me about 10 to 15. But if my home counts for primary, that 50 points is scoring me like a solid fourth of my score. Between it and the Spore Mines, can't do actions, which is good. I wholeheartedly agree. 0C should not be able to do actions, but it counts for behind enemy lines, and it's, I believe, like the smallest base in the game, or the models don't get any smaller base than it, so it's really hard to screen. Engage in all fronts, display of might. And area denial. Man, drawing turn 1 area denial and just putting a Spore Mine out there frustrates your opponents to no end. You're like, here's the one that counts, and I'm like, yep, 5 victory points for me, and they're like, I can't even get storm from that. I'm like, no, you can't, because I don't control it.
But they can get no prisoners. They can get overwhelming force.
Yeah, so they're not. They do swing the other way sometimes, especially if you're playing like that mission Purge the Foe, where you get kill points for killing things. That can kind of ruin it a little bit. But there's ways around that. You just don't use them for that. You use them to screen your backfield in addition to scoring points. You zone out your corners. It's the utility factor on them is so good. And it back in 7th edition, I used to run like units of 3 of them because they fired like the large blast pie plate templates, and they would just like get like so many hits on enemy units, and it was just not even funny.
D3 spores each too. Like you can have a whole string of them. They have that aura of you can't start or end in advance near me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no. A lot of people, funnily enough, don't know that they move after you place them.
Yep.
And I tell them the rule. It's a 6-inch aura off of it. Of you cannot start or end in advance. And so I'll if there's turn 1, nothing good to do, I'll put them like right up against the wall or an inch off. I know they can't make a charge. And then I'll just advance them up, and I'm like, anything within like 13 to 15 inches, you just don't get to advance anymore. It's just super funny to watch them be like, what?
I'm sorry, I need to step away for 1 second. I'll be right back.
It's all good. Actually, on that note, we do have to go hear a word from our sponsors, so everyone stick around and we will be right back.
Welcome to Big Bear 3D, your ultimate destination for top quality terrain and weapon props. Whether you're setting the stage for your next epic battle or enhancing your collection, Big Bear 3D has you covered. Don't forget to scan the QR code to explore our full range and bring the event home with you. Happy gaming! Big Bear 3D is excited to collaborate with Away Games, bringing top-tier competitive experiences to events across North America with our adaptable modular event tables. The Away Games event table, official for the American Team Championship and standard for the National Tabletop League, can now bring the event home. Pick up the Away Games 2024 event table to replicate any layout featured in ATC or NTL circuit events. Big Bear 3D is thrilled to offer sci-fi weapon props and raw part kits, printed in PLA plastic with all necessary assembly hardware included. We've also partnered with Hobby Goblins to provide assembled and painted prop kits for our customers. And don't forget, bring the event home with you.
Right back into it. All right, everyone, welcome back. So, we've talked about, some detachments, some units, the all-star Biovore that we all love. Now there's more to the game than our armies. There's the game we play. So we've mentioned Purge the Foe. We can all agree that it's like the worst thing for us. Purge is just bad. Ironically, almost solely on the back of Spore Mines, because that's just a free 16, 20 points to your opponent if you aren't careful with them. But what do you guys find to be some of let's start with the good missions. What are some missions you see and you get excited to play as Tyranids? Kate?
Oof. Missions I'm excited to play. Well, I typically take tactical missions. I think great segue from Spore Mines to now. Drawing area denial first turn, it's pretty satisfying. Feels a little cheeky, but having the Biovore in your back line to be able to put a Spore Mine there is just kind of feels good to get some points right off the bat. I also like behind enemy lines for a very similar reason, because you can achieve that with at least the Spore Mine guaranteed. Hopefully you have some infiltrators in your unit to work their way up the field, or just have something to be able to get back there. Alternatively, you have put a Spore Mine kind of close to the back line turn one, and then you pop a second one down if he stays alive. I just think they're very cheap, very easy ways to get some points. Engage is definitely doable with the NIDS list. Especially if you have some screening units up front to be able to kind of tow over the line. I'm trying to think. I don't know that I necessarily have favorites, but I do prefer when some certain secondaries arrive at different times, like Overwhelming Force, for example. That's definitely much nicer early game when you're fighting over objectives. I feel like one of my struggles as a NIDS player, or just a 40K player in general, is having enough assets by the end of the game to be able to continue to score secondaries or hold primaries after so much trading during mid-game.
Are there any primary missions that you hate doing besides Purge the Foe?
Primary missions. Yeah, Purge the Foe could be pretty rough. That I hate. Scorched could be a pain in the butt. Scorched Earth, where you burn objectives, then they go away. It's better going second, as I feel like that's applicable to most of my games. I like going second because I'm better at reacting than alpha striking. That's just kind of a personal skill set. And then the one where you generate and create new objectives. That can be good, where I feel like I could score more primaries, but it's really hard to be able to get opponents off of theirs at times.
You mean hidden supplies, where there's 4 in the middle?
I think she means like the relic. Like, I don't know if that's one that we usually play on competitively anymore, but is that even a thing anymore? The
one
relic?
where you create new objectives that are
like certain distance from the one in the middle,
with the no man's land.
The ritual.
The ritual. Oh my gosh,
that's it.
I just suppressed it.
That one's not played in tournament packs, but it is a fun mission, and for Tyranid, like you said, especially with lone ops, it is a good one. What about you, Kirk? Any particular missions you like, or kind of know you got your work cut out for you if you see you're going into?
Well, I don't know what it is, but I usually have a really rough time with hidden supplies. I don't know why. That one always just gives me trouble. I think I prefer the ones where your home objective counts for primary points, and the ones where it doesn't. Those can be kind of rough for us because we've got some big tough monsters in our army, that we can choose from in the faction and everything. But like a lot of the things like early that we rush forward to grab things are usually pretty fragile. So when you have the one in your home that you can always reliably count on scoring, like that helps. And the same goes with the opponent. They get that same benefit. But I don't know. It's just those just seem to work out better for me. Persephone we talked about. That one is usually kind of rough for us, and I don't think it's necessarily always just because of spore mines. I find that whenever I, compare my list to my opponents, I usually have like way more units than everybody, not just model count. So they have more opportunity to get the kill more, side of it. And then we have to rely on balancing that out with the hold more. So there's just that. But the standard take and hold, like the linchpin and those, I'm fine with like pretty much any of those. But hidden supplies, I don't know what it is. That one's just, it's my bane. And then I think supply drop is the one where they disappear, right?
Yeah.
So that one's kind of changed a little bit now that the center currently always stays the same. So I think when they changed that, that was a little bit better for us because of the consistency. You can rely on it. And then the random element was just which edge is going to disappear, right, first. And then the secondaries, I usually also go tactical most of the time. But when I played Vanguard a lot, I would go fixed like all the time. Engaging all fronts was like the staple one that I would always pick. Like I said, we usually have a lot of units in our lists. So to cover all 4 quarters is usually no big deal, given that most of our stuff has pretty decent mobility between gargoyles and hormagaunts and stuff. And we have a lot of infiltrator units too, so you can just start off all over the place if you build your list correctly and tailor it to going fixed secondaries. And then the other choice would usually either be behind enemy lines or establish locus, because that one you can reliably do in the middle all the time, and then the other half of it would be to get into the enemy deployment zone, which if you can't do it, you just do the middle. So you can reliably score both of them every turn, which, you can't always do that when you pick tactical. Now, of course, the drawback to that is you can't discard anything for bonus command points if you need them, but then to solve that problem, I usually just take the Swarm Lord for the auto extra command point anyway.
Yep. No, I very similarly kind of you touched on the end there. I build my list with secondaries in mind. The only ones that really bug me, like in general, Bring It Down just generally sucks because unless they have like a Rhino or an Armiger or something, it is rough killing like T10, T11 things with bugs. And then also, like Kate said, drawing like overwhelming force turn 4, turn 5, unless something like that was, wounded but not dead, kind of fell back behind a wall or something, that's also super not great to get. But most of them, like I love Display of Bite because that's super fun. And then of course, like I said, anything that the Biovore can interact with, which that's one of them, engage behind. I also personally abuse reserves a lot. I usually start with 2 units in reserves, and in Vanguard you usually put 1 or 2 more in on turn 1, and then kind of bounce another unit or 2 throughout the game just to keep my opponent guessing. Make sure they're really stressed them for where I'm hitting them in the front, have Execremes lined up for shooting lanes, and they got to watch their back for me to bring in, unit of warriors or gargoyle to their home or something behind them. So, and as for primary, other than Purge, supply drop is so rough because my personal play style is I like to play a 5-turn game where turn 1, depending on the mission and my opponent, is either just staging for a beta strike or just alpha striking as hard as I can, with the goal of both not necessarily crippling their forces like units wise, but like jailing them in. Just saying, no, you don't get to come out and play in the midfield for another turn or 2. And then I like Scorched because I'll start burning on turn 2. Like I'll push hard to jail them in from their expansion or even the center, and I'll just burn it with Lone Op. And then we only have 2 left, and I'll burn mine if I think I'm losing the attrition war. So then by the time bottom of 3, top of 4 comes along, I got like maybe 5 units left, but I'm ahead by like 15-20 points. Because not only is it hard or impossible to score primary if you can't leave your deployment zone or get to an objective? But it's also real hard to do a lot of the cards too, like Cleanse, Storm, Secure No Man's Land, Display of Might, like all those just off the table. So, Hidden Supplies, that one is, I find it to be very matchup dependent. If I'm playing another army who isn't great at holding primary, then it's kind of who does secondaries better because they're on the same thing as I am. But if it's against like a stat check kind of army, like Death Guard, Custodes, Awakened Dynasty Necrons, for example, it's a nightmare. Knights as well, because Knights can just stand on both and say these are both OC 10. Good luck. And I'm like, oh, okay, what do I do with that?
You raise them a Norn.
That's right. You stick your OC 15 or an emissary and get on both of them first.
My personal favorite mission with Tyranids, though, I love Terraform. Oh my god, with just how many fast units and infiltrators we can have. I love just terraforming something, and like, because Terraform ends on your opponent's turn, they have to take it back. I get a chance to have my say, whether that's with Gargoyles or Gene Stealers or Execrate shooting them. Just like, no, that's my 2 points a turn. You can't have it.
Yeah.
I love Terraform so much as Tyranids. It's so fun. Even if I go second, I'm like, all right, you can't Terraform turn 1, and I'll just make sure on turn 2 I get it done.
You know, that's really where, like, one of the, you know, infiltrator units that we have, the Lictor, which I don't think we've talked about very much. Those are just like so good for scoring secondary points if you use them good. They're just,
yeah. They're also good deterrents because I'm like, yeah, it fights first at, 7-2-2 hitting on 2's precision, or 8-2-2 if it has synapse. Like, I've legitimately had Space Marine players like, oh, I could charge my Sanguinary Guard with Captain with Junk Pack, or the Blood Angels, the Black Rage guys with their Chaplain or whatever. And I'm like, okay, but I have precision. Like, I could just snipe your character and get a, like, you'll kill me, but like, your character's dead and I get a CP for it.
Yeah. And they're so cost effective too.
Oh yeah, it's real nice.
Mm-hmm.
mm.
And I like I've been experimenting with the Parasite because it's a 12-inch moving loan up that also has deep strike, so it's real mobile, real fast.
Yes, they're really good in the Vanguard Invader detachment. And I used to use them with fixed secondaries. I would take behind enemy lines, run them in, stick something with his stinger, and pop. There's a unit of Ripper Swarms, which counts as a unit behind enemy lines.
That's funny.
Hilarious.
That is satisfying.
Yeah. That kind of touches on, you mentioned before, Tyranids are kind of a jack of all trades. Like, as we've been talking, you talked about the big monsters. We haven't really touched on swarms because nobody wants to do that, but you could take, it's 120 Gaunts, and then another 120 Gaunts, and then 96 Neurogaunts. Like, you could load the board up with just a couple Tervagons and some, Venom Thropes for stealth or whatever, and you're in. You got a horde. It's not going to live very long, but...
Yeah, I feel like people used to do that more when the Endless Swarm was a good detachment, and you could just, like, on top of that, bring back units of 20 models every turn. Tell your opponents blast weapons. No. These aren't you can't blast them. They only count as 5. You see 20, but there's only 5 for your gun. That's a fun strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there's like I've always played more of or tried to play more of a mid-range between big monsters, medium-sized creatures like Lictors, Warriors, and then some amount of infantry like Gaunts, Gene Stealers, and the like. I find it works best. Like, if Fights First wasn't so prevalent, I wouldn't even have Execrenes right now. I'd be running more Raveners, or maybe even Molochs, because they're again, Tyranids just have so many weird rules. Like the Biovore just spawning in a unit for free, or the Parasite that could spawn in a unit for free. Molochs who just arrive and do AoE mortal wounds. Like, it's just a lot of weird things that other armies don't really have to contend with, or like be aware of for the most part. So
I mean, to put it into perspective, if you wanted to purchase a unit of spore mines, you could get 3 for 55 points. So if you're generating, it used to be D3 per biovore, but now it's just the 1 per biovore. That's 5 spore mines. It's a lot of extra points to add to your list for free just by paying for the biovore.
Yeah.
And same with the Ripper for the parasite.
Over the course of the game, that's what? Over 80 points you just get.
Yeah.
So
and
that
if
is...
you lay into like some regenerating buffs, it's almost like a little homage to Necrons, you know? It's like we could reanimate too.
Mm-hmm. I just lost my train of thought. Oh no. Oh well, we're gonna move along. All that being said, going from missions to opponents' armies. What are some armies that are either predators you like hunting, or kind of maybe make you feel like you're on the prey end of it, where you're the one being hunted? Where you're advantaged or disadvantaged. You can list either one of each, or if you have these ones are ones I really want to avoid. Just to again give the audience a perspective of where Tyranids maybe they excel and maybe where they need a little help.
Well, my play style, I feel like I try to make my list very balanced because I take tactical missions, and I don't really lean really heavily into all ranged versus all melee. I like to take an all-comers list. Sorry, my cats are yelling. So with that being said, Guard and Tau are always a nuisance to me with their endless shooting. I feel like if I play something incorrectly or don't really anticipate my opponent moving a certain unit a certain way, leaving yourself open to being shot. Any really heavily ranged army, I feel, is a threat. So yeah, those are my two arch nemesi.
Anyone you look at where you're like, oh yeah, I got this. You just see the army across the table and you're like, it's feeding time.
Oh, I mean, I feel like I like elite infantry. I like fighting into elite infantry, not necessarily like Custode's version of elite infantry, but Space Marines I feel like is a very thematic and relatively even matchup depending on the army. But Blood Angels could be difficult in the Space Marine world. But yeah, elite infantry is what I feel pretty comfortable against. And depending on my unit composition and what type of ranged weapons I take, I feel like if people bring horde armies, I could generally deal with them. If I take high output army, like high attack count, if you will.
Yeah. What about you, Kirk? What are your your advantage and disadvantage matchups you feel?
That's a hard question to answer, I think, because it really depends on not so much what the faction is you're going up against, is more than like what do they have in their list. But one thing I tend to kind of struggle against are the Knights, like the Chaos Knights and the Imperial Knights. They usually give me trouble with the lists I kind of run. And it's mainly because of their high toughness on their big models. Yet with most of our shooting, you're wounding them on 5s, with the Exocrines and the Maleceptors and stuff. The rupture cannons on the Tyrannifexes that we have are basically the only answer to that kind of stuff. And then they make their invols most of the time, so
Yeah.
Can't do much about that. But most other I will definitely agree with Kate as far as like elite type units and elite armies. We tend to melt them just because we have so much 3 damage shooting attacks. So like Blood Angels, World Eaters, you would think that those fast, hard-hitting melee armies would be bad for Tyranids, but I find I usually tend to do pretty well against them, just because once they come out, you get a line on them and you shoot like 2 or 3 units into them, they're gone. And like the big armored units like guard tanks or like Tau hammerheads, like any kind of like big like shotguns that do like D6 plus 6 damage. I'm fine with those. I just walk out of Tyrannifex, and with their ability to zero out a damage, I'll trade shots all day, and I usually almost always win if it's a one-on-one duel, you know.
Good for you, Kirk.
So-
cannons
Almost always.
I love that. Like, yeah, I got heavy. I'm hitting on 2, should execute reroll 1s, and hey, hope you can blank a damage.
Yeah, and because our big gun gets 2 shots, so you know, chances are one of them will land. Hopefully,
And it's lethal hits as well, right?
No, it's not.
Okay, I couldn't remember if the big. I know I remember if it was or not.
No, but I mean, chances are you're gonna have a hive tyrant nearby.
Yeah,
And-
no, it
and-
could be.
And the T-Fex is just such a great unit, just because it's T12. You know, whether you take the rupture cannon or the acid spray, they're both really good guns.
Mhm.
They've got a little bit. They've got 8 anti-infantry shots. In addition to that, they move 9 inches, which is more than most people would suspect, and they're OC5. So they're like a really solid unit, despite being like, I think they're like 200 points now.
Yep. Yeah,
And they have a 2-up base save, which is
And
very
yeah,
nice.
two up armor, 16 wounds. You know,
My only wish is that their Blanca save was after your save roll.
yes.
That the fact that it's before and you can just like roll the 6 and waste it. Like, you didn't take any damage, but you could have blanked another one later. But they haven't changed it yet, and I doubt they're going to. As for me, I agree. Most power armor factions, I just melt right through. I love power armor. Whether I'm running Exocrines, Gene Stealers, Raveners, like, you know, kind of combination of both of what you said, either the damage 3 shooting or just the volume of attacks we have. Either 2 damage Twin Link from Raveners or just massive amount of 1 damage attacks from Warriors or Gene Stealers. You just cut right through them. And even Lictors, like Lictors have, you know, 6 attacks. Like you said, it's 7-2-2, could be 8-2-2 in Synapse. So even they're hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s. So it's just nasty. It's just, and even Terminators, you know, you can wound them on 3s or even 4s with like Gene Stealers. So even T5 stuff, like Orcs as well, doesn't quite get out of that, you know, damage range. And very similar to what you said, Kurt. And I tell everyone, once you hit like a mainline T10 army, like you take Chaos Demons, Knights, Chaos Knights, even Tank Heavy Guard, which no one's doing anymore, but you could. Like if I see someone like, yeah, here's my 3 Dorn Commanders, 3 Dorns, and like 7 Lehman Russes, I'm like, cool. I'm gonna play for 2 turns to get tabled. This was great because I can't do anything into that. Not really. I'm being hyperbolic. Don't you know? It's fine. But yeah, it's just once your toughness hits 2 digits, a lot of my damage and damage as nids, unless you're taking you know, Zone Thropes or Tyrannifex with Rupture Cannon, you just don't have an option. Which is fine. You know, we have that's one thing I personally love about Tyranids is I don't need damage to win. Like over my course of playing 8th to 10th now, watching everyone go, oh my god, I can do all this damage, or oh, you know, Thief of Secrets Death Watch, or you know, sustained hit, you know, Bolter Discipline Eradicators or whatever. I'm like, if you're threatening me with more damage, that I'm dead anyway. That's not a credible threat. Like the damage threshold to kill us isn't that high. Like it's a little more annoying than you'd like, but it's not. Like if people want a unit of Gene Stealers dead, 1 Oath Rep-X is going to kill a unit of Gene Stealers. It's not long for the world. And that's true for most of our creatures. Like I've had Norns go down to like 1 activation of, you know, Rogodorn or Rep-X shooting or whatever, and it's like, oh no, that should happen. I just didn't roll a 4 or any 5. That okay. But where I get a lot of mileage is the other type of army I personally have trouble facing is fast armies. Drukhari and Eldar in particular, even though they're arguably easier to kill than I am, they are faster than me, and they're more lethal. I mean, it's about the same because they're T3 with 5 up invulns if they have an invuln at all, but that the other edge that I use is my speed and mobility with either infiltrator, scouts, advance and charge, lone ops to kind of take away targets from them. When they can just decide, hey, we're moving 22 inches and still can activate, or 27 if you're warp spiders, or advance and charge with Hellions, it's like, well, I'm now not winning the damage game, usually not winning the resource game because they have many, at least Yukari has many units as we do, if not more, because of how Venoms work. And then I'm dead just, if I hit you first, you're dead, but you're going to hit me first because your number is bigger than mine. So I kind of, but again, none of this is taking any player skill into account. I can play, very, very good, Imperial Agents players, and they would probably trash me. I'm sure both of them exist. Funnily enough, I also hate the beer batch. I don't know about you two, but man, I hate going into it because half my rules just don't work going into Tyranids. And that's just a funny feeling. Especially Crutcher, you got to get Crutcher Stampede going into, largely, some T9, but a lot of T10, T11. I'm just like, I don't know. Guess I'll jail you for a turn and a half and then die.
Yeah.
So, yeah, how do you guys feel about
bug win?
What'd you say?
I said, may the best bug win. And you know what? You're all still part of the same hive mind. So are you really actually losing if you lose into another NIDS player?
Me.
That's the right attitude.
We are one.
I've played a couple of them, and every game it's the same thing. And it's like, so Shadows is a waste? Like, Shadows is a waste. Like, it's like, I'm like, look, unless you draw secure cleanse or recover asset sabotage, I'm not going to call it. It just we'll just play the game and see how turn 5 turns out.
Before we talk about Shadows, you mentioned fast armies being a kryptonite of yours or just a challenge. How do you guys feel about the Barb Gaunts, and do you ever run them in any list you go?
I just actually started building a bunch of them, and I want to try them out because D6 blast per guy seems pretty good.
Oh,
and I don't think I've seen anybody ever use them ever, and I'm like, and I never really paid them any thought, but recently I was looking at them and I'm like, you know what, I want to try these guys.
I think they're great. They disrupt infantry units.
Yeah, they do.
-2 move, advance, and charge. That's -6 to movement.
Yep.
And especially if there's a spore nearby, they can't even advance.
And I think they're strength 5 shots too. So that's,
It's D6 blast at 501. And I actually, something I was workshopping before I went back to Vanguard is taking 2 units in subterranean assault. Because I believe they're 24 inches. They might be 18, but I think they're 24.
They're 24.
They're 24.
Blast and heavy.
And you can they're also 2 wounds apiece, which is just a super funny thing. You can bring them out of a hole, or just bring them off a board edge if they're in reserve because they're on deep strike. And you give them the strat for sustained hits, ignore cover. So now that AP0 is less hurtful, and the 5d6 blast sustained hits hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. It's just super funny. And you can, it helps with the what I think Tyranids, I personally view Tyranids as a board control army. I don't view it as a hyper aggressive or certainly not a durable army. You can build stat checks or offense, but with the toolbox we have in the Codex, I think it's best to be played as a board control. And especially in Vanguard or in Subterranean, where you can really shuffle the Gaunts around and move block somewhere with the Gargoyles or Gaunts or Gene Stealers or Raveners by charging, and then picking another unit way off in the distance and being no, because you can shoot 4 of them at one unit you want to do damage to, and then one guy just cripple another unit. Because the rule is you pick one unit that was hit by attacks that unit made. So you can split fire and just decide that infantry unit isn't going anywhere this turn. I'll tell you right now, into Votann, that is the meanest thing you can do, because they play the Votann and Death Guard. They play the most honest Warhammer, and they're so sad. But
Poor Votann.
And quick shout out to Invasion Fleet. They'd be pretty good in there, just from the even with the lethal hits into a vehicle, that many shots, you're getting some amount of damage through. You're not debuffing them at all, but hey, if you left Rhino or Armiger on 1 or 2 wounds, it probably gets it done just by volume.
Have you guys ever killed a unit with a Biovore's indirect fire?
Yes, it's the most satisfying thing, because usually when you shoot them, instead of doing their place of spore mine ability, they do absolutely nothing. But every once in a while, they have the devastating wounds, and they're 2 damage. So when you roll that 6 on something, that is just the best feeling in the world.
And they're strength 6, so like they wound a lot of things on 3s that people don't expect, or elves on 2s. Fun, relatable story. It wasn't indirect. I have killed a few things indirect, and it's always funny when it happens. But the most epic one was actually against Todd at the last team event that we went to. I shot his Trajan point blank and got the damage on it. It was funny. He forgot that Trajan had a Philopane, so he rolled all of Trajan's Philopanes and still failed all of them in that moment. So I've killed Trajan with the spore being shot at.
You say with a spore or with a Biovore?
With the Biovore, I didn't make a spore because it wasn't indirect. He was right in front of the Biovore.
Yeah.
So I just shot him straight.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm like, look, if I don't get dev wounds, you're not dying, but I gotta try.
Yet another piece of proof that it's the best unit in the game.
Oh yeah, that's a very gratifying, if you know, you know, type of satisfaction.
Yeah. Watching someone like pull an Armiger back, or like a Grandmaster and Dread Knight, and being like, oh, I'll have the Tech Marine heal him next turn, and you're like, haha, spore, dead. And they're like, what?
wait.
Now, for those you knowing what it takes, it's a D3 blast gun, so D3 shots into a single target, hitting on 4s because of indirect. That's 602 with dev wounds. So like you need to hit with one.
He has a pip
It is neg 1, but if you fire indirect, they get the cover to cancel it out.
Yeah, it doesn't ignore cover.
Hurt.
But yeah.
Another fun fact people don't know, and I if you could fire 3 spores, I think people would know. You can squad them up to 3, like you can the Pyrovore. You can take 3 Biovores.
Yes, and then you place 3 spore mines, so you can do them like 2 inches apart from each other and have a little chain going.
Can you? I thought I'd said only 1 spore mine, regardless of.
I think it's 1 per model.
Oh.
If I'm not mistaken.
Wait. Rules as written. You could add 1 new spore mine unit to your army and set it up anywhere in the battlefield. The spore mine unit can take 1 model for each model in this unit. So you can do a flat 3 if you have 3 Biovores.
That's hilarious.
Right, but you can if you take multiple single Biovores, I think you're only allowed to have 1 of them put a spore mine down. So you can't have like 3 single Biovores drop 3 single spores. I think that's a mistake some people make sometimes.
I just did. No, and see, there you go. And that's what I love about this army, that there's so much like just weird stuff that it's real hard to keep track of all of it and how it works, because no other army does a lot of the stuff that we do. Which, it's good and bad. In some cases, we get spore mines or rippers out of the enemy's units, and other times we don't get grenades or tank shock. So
But we have smoke now.
We do very legally have smoke.
We'll see what happens in 11th edition.
And so just going back and rereading it, no, you can just place 3 different spore mines as 1 model unit, so they don't got to be 2 inches apart. So it's just 3. That's
hold on.
If the spore mines unit contains 1 model for each model in this unit. So yeah, never mind.
Yeah, so it needs to be 1.
If you have 3 Biovores in 1 unit, you place a unit of spore mines that have 3 models in the unit on the table.
Hilariously, that makes behind enemy lines even harder, because now you're taking that small footprint you can abuse and making it 3 times as big.
Yeah, that's why nobody does it.
Oh man, if they were 3 individual spore mines, I would be taking fixed engage every game and just get 20 points. The Biovore in its own quarter and a spore mine in each one, and call it good. Also,
back in the day, it was D3 spore mine per Biovore. So you could have a unit of up to 9 spore mines that just string across the battlefield. No prisoners. Well, you need to dedicate a lot of shots into these.
Oh no, I did. It was before I started playing competitively, but I remember hearing like tournament stories, like, yeah, the Tyranid player went first and just put a line of spore mines in front of my army and I couldn't move. And they just kept doing it until like they scored so many points I couldn't win anymore.
It was definitely janky. I don't know that it was fair, but it was definitely a lot of fun when the rules were like that.
I'll tell you this, it wasn't an 8th edition thing, because 8th edition, the primary mission was basically modern Purge the Foe for every mission. And then you had secondaries on top.
Yeah. More Kill More, Gangbusters, remember that?
Yes.
You mean the anti-Custodes secondary?
Yeah.
And then what was it? There was an Eldar one as well. They're like there's nothing good in the Eldar, so they made one specifically for Eldar and you took against them. Oh man, old Warhammer. What a time.
I don't mean to be so nostalgic.
No, it's perfect time. We're at the end of an edition, going into a new edition. I'm super excited for 11th. Just for the things that we heard from Adepticon. Like basically everything has 15-inch loan op until it activates. I'm just looking at Gene Stealers because they said we're keeping our codexes. So I'm like, Gene Stealers can advance and charge, and if you can't get within 15 and shoot me.
And then you're charging?
Oh yeah. You can roll and then declare what you're going in.
That's a good change.
I had a game. Sorry, go ahead, Kirk.
I don't know if I'm crazy about what I think the new Fights First rule is going to be. That might kind of invalidate the Lictor a little bit for us, but we'll see how it works out.
I kind of like it because as I understand it, the way they describe it, it's basically a free interrupt where the active player gets their one charge off, and you fight first automatically. And the way I usually play, especially melee names, I usually give them, so like if they want to fight in and charge my Lictor, like if I give them Gene Stealers and a Lictor, or like a Lictor and a Ravener, or a Lictor and Death Leaper, I'm still going to get to fight, and I'm fine with that. So basically you have to either charge in one spot or charge in like 3 to like come out on top, the way I understand it. So it I don't know, I kind of like it, but also I hate going like Dark Angels is one of my most specifically bad matchups because I have no good answer for the Lion, for Deathwing Knights, or for Inner Circle Companions with the GCR. And guess what every Dark Angels list takes? that like 70% core of points. So that's limiting that to where, the Lion heroic into my Gene Stealers, cool, I'm gonna hit him first, and wow, 11 dev wounds, die plus saves. So I don't know, but that's very neat, like personal experience. That is not like a whole horoscope of the meta.
Oh no, the Lions messed me up a few times too.
God, he's so much better than you.
Very wary about that model, especially now you can like go through walls and everything. It's like, no.
And just fall back next and or a reroll. Like, can Swarmlord be half that cool, please? So kind of, ending it off. What are some tips for people either getting into Tyranids or like, if they were thinking about starting a new army? What would you say like are some strengths of the Tyranid army, of the hive mind?
I think the flexibility and not being limited to what style, like play style that you want to have. We touched on this earlier, like even doing a heavily ranged kitted list. You could do melee heavy list. You could do an all-comers list. You could pick a detachment where everything's really sneaky and a lot faster. You can, do the new burrow detachment. Like there's just so much versatility and options. When you're building lists, it just feels like the world is your oyster when you have the Tyranids. And from a more shallow aspect, the coolest looking models in 40K. So
that's just proof.
Yeah. I drink the hive juice. It's okay.
It's the spawning pool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you're new to 40K, or if you just want to get into Tyranids and you're already into the hobby, Tyranids can be a little overwhelming because of the large model range. So I can see people struggling on what to get to start off. I don't know what the current combat patrol and like box sets look like, but they're usually all right. I would definitely start off with a Hive Tyrant, and then Exocrines are always a solid unit choice. And then you want to just buy that token Biovore. Just do it.
Yep.
And then maybe a couple of the battle line units. The Hormagaunts, I like them. Gargoyles are very mobile, very good. Termagants, I haven't really used them too much in 10th edition, but they're not terrible either. But I would start off with definitely a Hive Tyrant as your, character. Some either Hormagaunts or Gargoyles for battle line. Exocrines for some good firing support. The Malceptors are a very good unit. I don't think we've talked too much about them, but their datasheet ability to give everything -1 to hit within 6 inches of them is solid, on top of their invulnerable save and high toughness. And they have a shooting attack that is very similar to the Exocrine, so they're a solid unit as well. So yeah, and then as far as like what detachment, because we have quite a few right now to pick from.
Mm-hmm.
Invasion fleet is probably the simplest and most well-rounded, which I think is why so many people use it still. But if you're new to the game, I would even recommend not even playing with the detachment at first and just get a feel for the units in the army. And then once you have that feel for what everything can do, what everything is capable of, then you can dig more into the tactics of which detachment is best.
Yep. And just to touch on something that Kate said, about the adaptability, I firmly believe that Tyranids are like the most 5 out of 10 army in the game. And what I mean by that is I don't mean that they're mid or not as good or worse. Like, there's certainly better armies, certainly worse armies. But I mean play style wise, because you'll hear some really good armies like Sisters and Eldari and Guard and Tau be like, oh yeah, we can shoot real hard, even have some mobility, but we have melee problems. You'll hear melee armies like World Eaters, as an example, be like, oh yeah, we can hit you real hard, but we got to take some token Vindicators that are just a data sheet because we don't have good shooting options. Tyranids kind of have good everything. We have good movement in our Gaunts, all 3 of them, but mainly either the Hormagaunts to advance and charge, or Gargoyles to move 12 and then shoot and scoot 6. Or come out of reserve and move 6. They are fantastic move blockers and objective stealers. Good lord. We also have, fantastic just utility in the Biovore and our litany. I think we have 4 lone op options, the 3 types of Lictor and the Parasite. For shooting, we have the Tyranifex, either, anti-tank or flamer, Exocrine, Malceptor, all very good options. And the Malceptor and Exocrine are both very good at anti-horde and anti-elite infantry. And even anti-light vehicle, like in the most Eldar and Drukhari vehicles, or light carriers like Torox or Grandmaster Dread Knights, who are T8. Very good. And then we have big beefy monsters like Norns, Maleceptors again, Tyranifexes, even the Hive Tyrant. In most attachments you take them. Invasion Fleet specifically gets a Philmopain, so we can kind of do it all. Just everyone does something better than us. So you're very rarely going to be the best at the thing you're doing, but you can play in the same field that they are. And then it feels very toolboxy, where oh, you're a nail, let me grab my hammer. Oh, you're a screw, let me grab my screwdriver, and as the game goes on, you lose these tools, as we talked about. Another thing is Tyranids are kind of cheap. Comparatively, there are, a Vindicator, I think it's 175, so 180, something like that. Whereas a Exocrine is, 140 for comparable shooting. And I believe it's a little tougher. I think Vindicator's only 12 wounds, or Exocrines are 14, so we're a little bit cheaper, but we're also easier to kill. We don't have a 2-up save. A lot of times you don't have access to armor contempt, so that is the trade-off. So it is a lot of fun. You can do anything you want to. Just be aware you're not going to be able to do everything because of either points or other restrictions. Like to get a lot of the buffs you want. Like if you want to move, if you want to advance and shoot, you got to make sure you end near a hive tyrant. A lot of things don't have assault. Actually, I think nothing has assault other than gargoyles. So yeah, it's just and like Kurt said, it can be overwhelming trying to keep track of all that, because if you do mess up your positioning or make another mistake that you think is benign, suddenly you're out of range of synapse, and you're taking regular battle shocks, which is awful. Tyranid leadership sucks. Like 3d6 for battle shocks as an army rule is terrible until you don't have it. And you're like, oh my god, I wish I had it, because you feel it.
Sometimes I feel even with the 3 dice.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Sometimes you do just roll a 1, 2, and 2. And
that's right. I gotta make those battle shock tests. Yeah. The opponent's like, "Oh, you got this," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, watch this."
I rolled a 4 buddy. Okay.
And touching on that, if you want to play Tyranids, get real familiar with battle shock. Like, get intimately familiar with that rule, because that's your army rule. And the last thing I'll say about it, it's if you're an opportunistic player where you don't really have a 5D Grandmaster chess plan for the whole game, but you just kind of take each turn as it comes. Tyranids are great for that, man, because you call shadows and suddenly everything your opponent thought they were going to do or what you thought was going to be priority completely shifted. I've gone from I'm leaving that land raider alone. I'm never going to interact with it. It's too tough for me. To it failed a battle shock to everything right now into it. Kill it. This is our moment. So yeah, there's tons of opportunity to be taken advantage of. So, and kind of like Kate said, if you're a reactive player, we're like, oh, that went my way. Great, let's just go ahead and get on that. Like the Neuro Tyrant with Zone Thropes, yeah, that gives them +1 to hit, but also if you're shooting a battle shock target, you're +1 to wound now. And now those Strength 12 blast cannons are a whole lot, or even the Strength 7 blast shots are just Strength 5 Flamer also gets a +1 to wound. So there is a lot. It can be overwhelming. I think, Kurt, your advice was very good. Take a practice game, learn where your units do, learn, get familiar moving them, because a lot of your stuff is either the big oval monster bases or like 80 of the little 32 millimeter infantry bases. But yeah, no, it's a lovely army, and there's so much flexibility. Like I can take my Vanguard list, swap out a unit of Gene Stealers and like an Execrete, and put in like a unit of Raveners and Trigon. It would go just fine. And I can same with Invasion Fleet. I could take out like 2 units of Gene Stealers and Broodlords, put in some Maleceptors and like another unit of Hormigons, and change enhancements around. And again, it's great. So there's a lot of flexibility, and we have like, what is that? I think we have 9 detachments now. No, 8. We have 6 in the Codex, then Warrior and Subterranean. So there's also a variety. Some of them are keyword dependent, like Assimilation Swarm, Vanguard, Monster Crusher, and Synaptic Nexus. But Monster is the most prolific keyword in the Codex, like specifically, and then Vanguard's not far behind it. So while they are limiters, it's not limiting until you get to like Assimilation Swarm. You got like 4 units to choose from. But that being said, do you guys have any last thoughts or tips for anyone, either veterans, new players, people playing against Tyranids, anything?
Well, I would agree with your synopsis, and then just say again, like, Tyranids have always been an army that is basically a jack of all trades, master of none. So.
And I couldn't help but notice that you said synapsis instead of synopsis. Was that intentional?
Look, screw that word.
Synapsis. I couldn't agree more.
I honestly believe GW personally words things that mess with me, and it's fine.
I think it was very thematic.
And I don't know how you guys feel about the faction rule, the Shadow and the Warp, but for me, it either does absolutely nothing, or it can be extremely devastating. And I think a lot of people don't quite understand like the relevance of the order of the command phase, because usually when I'm playing against a lot of people, they don't have a lot of things that deal with the command phase, and the steps that you take when you're in that phase when you are wanting to do shadows is very important. So the way, and this is my understanding, that the turn goes is when it's a new player's turn, both players get a command point, and then the player whose turn it is draws their secondaries, and then at that point you go into the command step, which is when you can activate the shadow and the warp. And when you do that, they are not able to auto pass anything. The stratagem that is insane bravery is only to be used in the morale step, which comes after the command step. So if you can pop it in your turn or the opponent's. I almost always do it in my opponent's turn. And so I will wait to see what they draw for secondaries if I'm thinking about doing it. And if they draw 2 action secondaries and it's an opportune time to do it, I'm popping it, because I can just ruin their whole turn.
Oh yeah. No, and that it's very good to clarify, because again, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know there's 2 steps to the command phase. And it is very important. Like if your opponent's a Tyranid opponent, you can't ask them, "Hey, do you want to pop shadows before I go to my battle shock step?" And like I'll let people know, like like, "Oh, do you want to pop it?" I'm like, "Yeah, let me think about it. I'll let you know." And I'm not for a gotcha, just to like, because I'm like, some people will just start their turn, not even draw their cards. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're doing this turn. Like, I gotta wait to get your card.
Or they'll immediately score their primary, and that's technically not correct, because you can take that away from them if they fail battle shock tests on their objectives.
One of my favorite tricks with Tyranids to do is I run Neurolictors. I love Neurolictors. They're one of my favorite units. Is being on an objective with an opponent who's like, "Oh, I'm gonna put 2 OC on it or whatever, and here's a Rhino, I'll take it from you." And I'm like, "All right," or they go and fight the Neurolictor and it lives, and I'm like, "My command phase, battle shock that unit," and they roll and they fail it, and then I drew like storm hostile objective. I'm like, "Cool, that counts, because you held it when my turn started, and now before even out of my command phase, I hold it. So thanks, it's mine now." And it's like the Spore Mine doing Ares and Isle. They're like, "There's no way that counts," and I'm like, "It unfortunately does. I'm so sorry." Like, it's just the
is
easiest
indeed a unit.
So, but yes, as I said, familiarize yourself with battle shock, the order that it goes, because it is literally your army rule. It is how your army works, and by itself, it doesn't do a lot, but there are units, the Neurotyrant, Neurolictor, who, if they're engaging with a battle shock unit or near one, your army just gets better. That's the other thing I forgot to mention, talking about the toolbox of Tyranids. We have a lot of debuffs. The Swarm Lord has a Lord of Deceit aura, Vect, Flying Hive Tyrants. Any unit within 12 of them in the fight phase at the beginning of it, on a 2-up, they just lose an attack off their profile. So like elite units only have like 3, or God forbid, like Bloodletters with 2 attacks, hate that. Or Lancers with 4 attacks, just hate it. We have multiple -1 to hits with Smoke now in the Psychophage, the Maliceptor 6-inch aura being battle shock near a Neurolictor, being in combat with a Broodlord, like Barb Gaunts can affect your movement, as well as Spore Mines can stop you from advancing or finishing an advance. So there is just a bunch of little hindrances throughout this army that, like, on their own don't seem like much. And you put 2,000 points down and you start hitting your opponent with it, and they're just like, "Why can't I do anything?" So, and you also get the games where, like, you're just facing 5 big knights and none of those debuffs matter. So, again, it goes.
We're not here to be overpowered. We're not here to, be the top dog.
This isn't 9th edition. It's okay. I know how none of us talked about 9th edition. We're like, yeah, 8th was like this, 7th, we're in 10th now. Don't.
To be fair,
Crusher was pretty awesome back then.
that was a little like ridiculous.
All the hive tyrant too.
Yeah, but to be fair, in 9th edition, I mostly played Gene Stealer Cult, so
That was when I was in my spore phase. I had a pencil case full of little spore mines for all the biovores.
I went to Necrons because I have too much of an ego and I hate when the rules are better than I am. I was winning almost every game, and I kind of like did the walk of shame. Like I didn't win that. That my rules are just stupid.
Because your secondaries were great.
The not even. I was just tabling my opponents, and I'm like, why? Like the hive tyrant would go, oh, come on the battlefield, kill something, leave. Next turn, come on the battlefield, kill something, leave. And they're like, how do I interact with that? I'm like, you don't. As long as I got a CP, you just don't.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, I was. But in all fairness, everything in 9th edition was broken.
Yeah. It feels wrong when you're playing like that. You know it's overpowered, but you're like, well, it's my time to shine. You'll get yours.
What was it? Maleceptors could do like 21 mortal wounds before they even like started casting spells or something. It was insane.
Oh, we didn't even touch on the previous psychic phase abilities of Nids, which that could be its own channel in itself.
Look, I'm waiting for the 11th to be officially released, and like 70 new detachments breaks down to roughly 3 detachments per army. Now, I don't think every army is going to get 3 because things like demons and Imperial agents, seem to be forgotten.
Well, I think they said that it was 70 new and or upgraded detachments, right? So some of them are just going to be like changed. So depending on which probably whatever the new core rules are, some detachments might be getting tweaks or whatever to fit in line with the new rules. I don't know. We'll find out in a couple months.
Yeah, I'm very eager for that.
Same. I'm super excited. I'm super stoked. Like I said, for the Red Terror, I don't even care what the rules are. I hope they're good, but like model just looks great. Like the Norns, when they came out, I saw them. I immediately bought 3. I didn't even I'm like, nope. I called my local game store. Like when they're on pre-order, put my name down for 3.
It's like, Godzilla.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh my god, they're so good. So this is another beautiful model I can't wait to get. I'm hoping and praying the Hyruduls and Dimacarons come back since the Red Terror came back. I'm not sure. Oh my god, no, it'd be so good. But with that, we've kind of passion vomited all over these nice audience members for an hour and a half now. Thank you all for staying with us. Any exiting thoughts as we close out the show, guys?
Long live the bugs. Join the hive. Join the hive mind. We have good luck.
Look, very technically speaking, we're all made of biomass.
It's true.
Well, thank you guys very much for coming on and talking about this lovely faction.
No problem. No problem. They're a great army, fun to play. You had fun to play against. Yeah, it's. I've had a lot of great games with them.
Same. I've had a lot of wonderful opponents, both other enthusiasts of Nids and people who've never played them. So, well, I hope everyone has a good night, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.